to everybody to the meeting of the Executive Member Leaders Portfolio, held in the presence of representatives from other political groups. First item on the agenda is the monitoring of Executive Cabinet Member decisions. Does anybody need to raise any point on this? If not, okay. We will move on now to item 2, which is the Director of Corporate Resources Finance Report Q2. Janet?
Thank you very much, Chair. So this is the Q2 finance report for the whole of the Directorate of Corporate Resources. The Directorate is projecting to overspend by £122,000 by the end of the financial year. For this portfolio, the overspend is £12,000. There is one significant variant, and that's around filming, but just to note, as it's covered in the general over and underspends within the Directorate. Key financial findings can be found on page 3, and service-specific findings can be found on Appendix A. The Executive Cabinet Member is asked to note the contents of the report and approve the recommendations in Section 11 that are appropriate to this portfolio. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks very much. Any comments or questions?
I'll let you off today, Janet.
It seems quite straightforward. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the next and final agenda, which is the series of HR procedures, policies that have been reviewed, and we have a double act of both Dawn and Steve to take us through this item. So over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'll pick up the two that I've progressed first, and then I'll leave Steve to cover his policy. So the two that I've reviewed are the domestic abuse policy. This was last updated in 2019, and it was called the domestic violence policy at the time. There's been quite a lot of shift in use of terminology and support available. There was a Domestic Abuse Act passed in 2021, which wasn't included, which adds in things like female genital mutilation. So we've incorporated a lot of these things within the policy now. We've updated the support. We've liaised with the likes of Fort Alice and other agencies to get their impact into this and the support that's offered to staff as well, and put some examples in it. So it's much more fit for purpose. It's much more supportive of staff and what we will do as the council in those situations. It's been through DLT, CLT, no real issues. We've fully consulted with the trade unions. So, yeah, any questions, comments on that policy? Before I move on to the next.
Nick, could I just
yes, go on, David.
Sorry, I'm on my phone. So, in relation, I know you mentioned Fort Alice. I was going to raise that because obviously they're an expert organisation.
Yeah.
How do we go on with other organisations in the charity sector in Bolton? Because there's quite a number which are really specialists in the advice, the information, the services they provide. I know it's fed into staff members and the operation of the council as a whole.
We have linked in the policy different support groups where staff can get support, but obviously we're not the experts either, so we're relying on them to, I suppose, point people in the direction of other more specialised supports if they aren't the right agency that they've gone to in the first instance.
Okay, thanks. Okay, next, Dawn.
Okay, the Dignity at Work statement. We used to have an anti-harassment statement, which was last updated in 2011, believe it or not. It's very out of date. There's been some new legislation that was introduced last month on sexual harassment. So we've completely refreshed the anti-harassment statement. We've now called it a Dignity at Work statement, which incorporates not just sexual harassment, but all forms of harassment. This is the first step in us moving forward in terms of compliance with the new legislation that's come in. In addition to the Dignity at Work statement, we're also looking to resurrect the old anti-harassment policy in 2007, we disbanded that policy and just incorporated a line into the grievance procedure about harassment. But with the new legislation, it's not felt that that's sufficient anymore. But again, we just want to ensure that we cover all forms of harassment and not just focus on sexual harassment. So one of my many tasks, is to revive the old anti-harassment policy, probably referring to it going forwards as a dignity at work policy, which is more appropriate terminology. We've also got in production some posters which are going to go up in every workplace across the council to say that we have zero tolerance of harassment of our staff, and that staff should report any concerns to their managers. So they're in the design stage at the moment. So hopefully over the next few weeks you'll see them going up. We're working with Manchester City Council, who we share our audit provision with, to put steps in place to enable staff to anonymously report harassment complaints via the whistleblowing policy. So that is a key factor of the legislation, is that staff have to have the right to anonymously report. So we're working with Manchester on that, and we're also tweaking the training on me learning for whistleblowing and harassment to incorporate the new legislation and the reporting routes that are available to staff. So there's lots and lots of work going on, and the statement is the first step in that work.
Okay, so in terms of other steps and other work progressing on this, Dawn, what's the timescales, the milestones?
Timescales, hopefully the revised policy will come from, I'm hoping to have it drafted within the next couple of weeks, then I'll take it forward to the trade unions to discuss it with them. Probably unlikely I'm going to get it back to you before Christmas, so hopefully in the new year, early in the new year, we'll get that through.
Yeah,
Keen
that's
to get
fine.
it through as soon as possible because it's such an important issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Any questions, members? If not, we'll now move on to Steve then.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, my name's Steve Can. I'm just going to talk you through changes to the smoke-free policy. So I'm sure you're aware, the legislation in 2007 banning smoking in, substantially enclosed places and workplaces. This resulted in us having a smoke-free policy. It was last reviewed in 2018, and it was overdue for a review, primarily for the passage of time, but also I think to reflect terminology in use. So fundamentally, it hasn't changed much. The existing policy did cover vape or vaping by reference to e-cigarettes, but the word vape or vaping wasn't used in the policy at all. And obviously that's, they're now commonly used phrases. In addition, the policy now has a section for support for staff who want to give up smoking and signpost them to that. The policy was developed, reviewed by the health and safety team in partnership with public health. The usual consultation took place with the trade unions, and they're comfortable and happy with what our minor changes, and various other stakeholders were consulted with as well. And that's pretty much it. There's it's not a vast amount of sort of change to it. I think the real plus thing for me is the support for staff is now added to the policy.
Okay. Any comments, members? Okay, thank you. That's pretty straightforward. Update of HR policies in line with legislation and changes. So I don't think there's anything more to add to that. If not, that concludes the meeting, and thank you for your attendance.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you.